I was asleep one morning and I woke up and I'm in the top of my room looking down at my body. Not astral projection, just an out of body experience. This is when I was about 13 years old.
Did you freak out?
I didn't. I had no feeling about it whatsoever, other than, oh, what am I doing out here? And what is he doing down there? So this is again one of these experiences where it's inexplicable. I've I'm at decades later. I'm just beginning to understand it. I wrote my book about intuition as because there's so many strange things that have happened to me. But the older I get, the more it all makes sense.
Mm.
But the idea was that here I am outside my body. I describe it as being like tied like a helium balloon to my wrist. My soul was up here, my body was over here. And so for 3 entire days, 3 days, 3 nights, my soul, my consciousness is outside my body. And I get up, I have breakfast, I go about my business, I communicate with my parents. I'm watching myself communicate and interact with other people, but it's almost like I'm watching a movie of myself. Like, it's like a third person experience. 3 days. And so at the end of the second day, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how long this is going to
Hey guys,
last.
wanted to say thank you so much for continuing to tune in week after week. I get loads of lovely comments about the guests and the value, and it's brilliant. So keep the comments coming, keep liking and subscribing. I think the stats at the moment are at least sort of 50 to 60% of my viewers are still not subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe, please. It really helps me to grow the channel. Also, don't forget, I'm over on Substack. It's at Melody Kate. And over there, you will get, as a paid subscriber, which is only £7 a month, you get early access to my podcasts. And you also get free access to private webinars, which I've now started. So if you're interested in that, go to Substack. And finally, the Willoughby Genius app, some of you will remember, Charles Fernandez has created this amazing app with different modules, and it's all about being able to claim your money back on GDPR breaches. It's about knowing what to say when you're dealing with the police or bailiffs at your door. It's got everything in there, absolutely everything. And if you want to subscribe to that, you can go to bit.ly Willoughby app. And if you use the code MELNSP, so MELNSP, that's Never Settle Podcast, then you will get £5 off. Thanks again, guys. Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome, viewers. Today I have the wonderful David Masters. David, he's had a very and still has a very successful career in radio as an award-winning radio producer, voiceover artist, creative writer, thought leader, radio host. He's also into all things weird and wonderful, and he shared his book with me. Pay attention to your intuition, precognition, meaning, and warnings in dreams. I'm fascinated with dreams because I have the weirdest dreams going. But some of the stuff that's sort of highlighted from that book, it's about consciousness, it's about quantum physics. You've got the conscious quantum vacuum model, dreams in the dreamverse. Like I said, I'm fascinated with all of that and how thoughts and intention can influence physical systems. And faith literally does change reality. And death is definitely a transition and not the end. All things that I concur with. So, welcome, David. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. And I know you're from America, but what part? I didn't ask you.
I live on the Pacific coast in Southern Oregon.
Nice. So me and the audience love a backstory. So just tell us, go back as far as you want to, and the radio career, which still continues. I know we were just talking off air, and I think the love of that started with your father,
Yes.
who was prevalent in that world as well, and you were just a surfer at the time, um, and that sort of normie existence, and how this other stuff, the ethereal stuff, all came about. So over to you.
Well, we don't have all day. So I'm going to give you the short version
Okay, that's
because
fine.
I've had so many unusual experiences in my life. I mean, I can't even keep track of. I've written 30 books so
Mm.
far. And each one of my books is a facet of the things that I am have experience and exploring. But the realm of consciousness is the number one thing because one of the things that people are beginning to, scientists especially, are beginning to realize is that consciousness is non-local, which means it's not produced by your brain. It's received by your brain. So, when I was very young, I had a catastrophic experience. It wasn't entirely catastrophic, but I lost a finger. Do you see that finger missing right
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah.
I lost a third of my finger in an accident, a bicycle accident. I had my bike upside down. I was pedaling my bicycle, and my finger got into the chain and the sprocket, and boom, it came off.
Oh.
So this was the probably one of the most important experiences of my life because it set the stage for a domino effect of what I call a dispensation for me as a person. Something happened to me as a child, and I think it happens to a lot of people that in childhood there are things that happen that set the course for your life that you don't see it until decades and decades later. And so in my later years now, I have been looking back a lot at my life and to see that these things happened to me as a result of something that was given to me, an ability, I will call it conscious intuition, awareness that stems from something that I wouldn't have had, I don't think, unless this little accident happened to me. It was given to me because I think that there are offsets. Let's put it that way. I think in life there are certain offsets that are allowed to people spiritually, consciously. And I was always a very curious person from the time that I was very, very young. And so going through my life, I've had these weird experiences. And I'll just go to, I think the first one that I was really conscious of is when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was going to go visit a friend of mine down the block. I went down and I stopped in front of my friend's house. And I'm standing there questioning whether or not I should go knock on the front door. I have no idea why. All of a sudden, like in the middle of my forehead, a portal opened up. And I was able to sort of look into this friend's home, and I didn't like what I saw. It was just, I don't know what it was, but I didn't like what I saw. And I decided to turn around and go back home.
Was this after you lost your finger?
This was about 9 or 10. Yeah, this was about maybe 5, 6 years after I lost my finger.
Okay.
So this was the beginning of what some people will call my psychic visions. I felt like there was violence in the home.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, something just said to me, go home. And I did. This is the basis of what I wrote in my book, Pay Attention to Your Intuition, because that is the beginning of a different journey for every human being, is that every one of us has the potential to be guided by intuition, but some people go, whatever, they think it's wishful thinking, or they think it's fear, or whatever it may be that a lot of people get in terms of intuitive hits. They have a tendency to say, oh, I don't know about that. But I wasn't one of those people. I actually said okay to it. And so throughout the course of my life, these intuitive moments started occurring to me. At the age of between 12 and 13, my folks had moved to Hawaii. I lived right on the beach. One
Nice.
day I'm sitting there on the seawall watching the sun go down. I see this little tiny black dot about a mile out in the ocean, a little dot. Now, what I used to do is I used to watch the boats go by. Honolulu Airport was maybe 5 miles from where I lived. So I'd watch the airplanes go by, and I'd see the boats coming in and out of the harbor. This one day, though, this thing was curious. It was a little dot, and it kept moving and disappearing with the ocean swells. And I watched it for about 15 or 20 minutes. The sun was completely down at this point. It was just like an, a pink sky. And all of a sudden, from left to right, this big jumbo jet's coming in, going to land at the airport. And this little black dot lifts straight up out of the water, goes right up behind the airplane, follows the airplane, and then darts out into space. I can't unsee it.
Hmm.
It's like it happened yesterday. So I had this uncanny ability to notice things. I don't know why. And I said there were other kids on the beach with me. I said, "Did anybody see that?" Nobody saw it.
Do you think it's
But
because, do you think, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
um, like a lot of the, I mean, I'd listened to a lot of channelers and different people like that, and the common theme is that the veil is lifting from Earth as you know, especially over the last 5 years, all the crap that happened, and and the world's getting faster, and time is seems to be very, very fast, and in all of that we are beginning, and the more awake people and the more conscious people and the more spiritual people or whatever are beginning to see things that have always been there, but we just couldn't see them. Yeah. But because you were already in that kind of vibe when from a very young age, that you could see that and other people just didn't. Do you think that's what it was?
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, these things are all there.
Yeah.
They've been there for probably thousands, if not millions of years, whatever it is that we're dealing with. But as I've tried to describe to my wife, you know, many decades later, I mean, I had a fascination with trying to understand what I saw. And it led me down different roads. And I don't know if you're familiar with the radio broadcaster Art Bell.
No.
Okay, Art Bell was the number one overnight radio show in the history of radio, with over 550 radio stations syndicating his show. And the reason I mention that is because I ended up being the producer of that show. And this is when they were talking about the face on Mars, Richard Hoagland. You know, he was a reporter for CBS News, a science reporter. I ended up gravitating toward, and I'm not one of these people who you might call a new ager. Actually, I'm very much a Christ follower. I'm a believer, you know, in the higher power. But I also gravitated toward what many New Age people are into, which is what are we dealing with in terms of the psychic forces that we're surrounded with. And you know, as I get older, I begin to understand and somewhat appreciate which you know, there's a time at which you think, oh, these people are crazy, but you start to appreciate what it is that the questions that they're asking. You know, what are we dealing with, and is there more than just our perception? So, you know, but by the time that I was, you know, let me flash back to another experience I had, because after that experience with seeing this thing go straight up out of the water, and I thought to myself, now this was in 1966. We didn't have technology like that in those days. At least I don't think we did, although
Yeah.
we might have.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely fascinated, and it sort of prepared me for this journey that I've been on my whole life. So about a year later, we had moved back from the Hawaiian Islands to Los Angeles, California. And at that point, we had moved up north, and I was asleep one morning, and I woke up, and I'm in the top of my room looking down at my body. Not astral projection, just an out of body experience. This is when I was about 13 years old.
Did you freak out?
I didn't. I had no feeling about it whatsoever, other than, oh, what am I doing? out here, and what is he doing down there? So this is again one of these experiences where it's inexplicable. I've I'm at decades later, I'm just beginning to understand it. I wrote my book about intuition as because there's so many strange things that have happened to me, but the older I get, the more it all makes sense.
Mm.
But the idea was that here I am outside my body. I describe it as being like tied like a helium balloon to my wrist. My soul was up here, my body was over here. And so for 3 entire days, 3 days, 3 nights, my soul, my consciousness is outside my body. And I get up, I have breakfast, I go about my business, I communicate with my parents. I'm watching myself communicate and interact with other people, but it's almost like I'm watching a movie of myself. Like, it's like a third person experience. 3 days. And so at the end of the second day, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how long this is going to last. It was that weird, but at the same time, I didn't have any worry about it. There was no feelings about it. It was just I was experiencing this. I was an observer. So the third day, I do the same thing, and then the next morning I wake up and I'm back in my body, and I have this awareness of what had happened to me, and so I didn't say anything to anybody about it, because when you're 13 years old, what do you know?
Yeah.
And how do you explain these strange experiences? But I did have um, so many related experiences. It was like a domino effect, but slow motion domino effect, because there were so many things. And please feel free to jump in and ask questions about whatever it is that, if you've looked through my book, you'll see that there are a number of dream experiences that I had on top of all of this. But um,
And what were those? Because like my dreams, I've had dreams where I know it's not a dream, I know it's a visitation. So I lost my dad in 2006. So it'll be 20 years this year. And I know the difference between him just being in one of my dreams to a real kind of visitation, because it's almost like I can see it as a 3D movie. That's how it feels. And I feel so different when I wake up, um,
yes,
versus just
yes,
having a normal dream. And then I've had my flying dreams, and more recently I'm aware and I'm getting to control it more when I'm in that dream, rather than, you know, like I've dreamt, I have these out of bodies in the dream, for example. And then as soon as I'm aware that I'm like having this amazing flying experience, I'll wake up or I'll plummet to the ground or whatever, which is
right,
really frustrating.
yes. No, so I will give you my latest dream.
Okay.
Okay. I lost my dad and mom both about 5 years ago. And so recently, within the last, I want to say year, uh, I had a situation in which I was reunited with somebody who I was estranged from. And I knew that my dad would be happy about that, right? So I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I feel this presence, and there's my dad. This is the first time he's ever shown up in 5 years, by the way.
Okay. Right.
And he leans over on the side of my bed and gives me a kiss on the forehead, and then he's gone. The warmth just flooded through me. It was more real than reality itself. I felt it. I experienced it. So I've had this is a very positive side of the things that have happened to me. And this goes to this idea of non-locality of consciousness. We never really, all of us, none of us ever really cease to exist.
No.
We just don't. And again, we were talking about how whatever it is that we're dealing with, whatever is there, has always been there. These other things, these other forces that are at work in our lives, these metaphysical forces, they've always been there. And the other thing is that what I've discovered in this sense is that time is an illusion. There is no timeline between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Time doesn't move along a line
No.
from there to here to tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Everything is encompassed in the now moment. Everything exists. So this is the ever present and the eternal all at the same time. So whatever it is that we are experiencing and encountering in the ever present, most people, though, are very disconnected. Most people are part of a mass formation, which is they are outwardly directed, not inwardly directed. And therefore, they can't be in touch with the deeper sense of things that they could experience because they are in a mass formation. And part of it is hypnotic. That's a whole nother issue we can get into. In terms of dreams, I've had many powerful dreams that have changed the course of my life. But the difference between me and, let's say, the average person is that I have the ability to interpret dreams as well.
I was
As
going to
something
say,
that's,
yeah,
yeah,
because like you can, I mean, I had a dream very recently, and it was very much about something that's going on in my life at the moment, which is very negative, it's very worrying, it's full of fear.
yeah.
And this particular dream prompted me to take an action the following day. And I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. But it felt such a calling for me. Oh shit, right, I've got to do something, that's come this morning, whenever it was, or last night when I dreamt, for a reason at a very specific time. And but I don't most of the time I wouldn't do that. Most of the time I'm like, God, that dream was off the scale crazy as per usual. And I have never gone into the studying of dreams or how to interpret dreams. The interpretation, is that something that comes to you naturally, or is that something you've studied?
No, I haven't studied it.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the thing is, I have looked into the to dream symbology. And there are times where it makes sense, and there are times where it's just somebody saying, "Oh, a spider means a
Yeah.
hovering mother."
Yeah.
Okay, could be, could be. But see, I don't study it because it is innate. It is something, and well, I'm a visual thinker. I've never been able to be an abstract thinker. It doesn't work for me. Abstractions don't work because I'm very, very solidly rooted in actual reality. And so abstractions get in the way for me, and they're confusing. I started being able to read people's dream images probably at the age of 15. So it started very early for me. It's like I remember my sister said to my dad, sitting at the table one day, she's like, I had this weird dream. And she started telling him about the dream. I said, oh, I know what that means. Oh, I know what that means. Oh, it was so clear to me what the dream meant. And it's always been that way. See, there are things that you can intuit. And I just saw something very, very good on YouTube. It had like 2 million views. This person said that he had decoded reality. And he said the problem with humans is that we are trying to interpret reality with a brain that's not designed to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, our brain is a little finite piece. It's like a PC. It's a personal computer, but it's not really designed to interpret reality. And then now you have all these scientists who, I just listened to another one this morning about how they're saying there's no actual color in the world. Come on. I don't believe that for a minute. It's your brain that's creating the color. No, I don't think so. Yeah, because do you dream in black and white, or do you dream in color?
Color.
Of course you do, because this is what is observable. So there's the observable universe, there's the unobservable universe. The things that are seen are created by what is not seen. Okay, fine. But the intuitive side of us is a side of us that few people actually explore. And this is why meditation, mindfulness is such a powerful tool, because it helps to reduce your resistance to the reality that's waiting there, that's just outside that door. And by the way, with regard to reality, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's like I can't see my yard outside this wall. It's still there.
Yeah.
Everything outside this wall, all I'm seeing is the wall. That's how people are in their brain. Their brain is a cave.
Yeah.
And what they do is they sit there and stare at the ceiling of the cave all day long.
Yeah.
So,
I know. I know it's so easy to get into that though. It's a conversation I've been having recently actually with my partner. And I keep coming back to you have to believe it in order to see it. Not seeing is believing, which is obviously the normal phrase that everybody uses,
yeah.
because that is so limiting. And every thought that's ever been thought has, you know, no, not sorry, not every thought that's ever been thought, but thoughts become reality, right? Everything that's manifested was originally a thought. And why can't we manifest from some crazy dream or some crazy thought or whatever? That's how things happen. That's how things get created. But we're so, like you sort of alluded to earlier, the programming has been so strong for such a long time that we're all just dumbed down versions of ourselves until something happens that makes us look at things differently. I mean, it's a great quote from Wayne Dyer, isn't it? Change the way you look at things, and the things you look
Loved
at will
Wayne.
change.
He
Yeah.
was he was a wonderful guy.
Did you ever
Um,
meet him?
I never did, but I have my friend that I do another podcast with spent a lot of time with him, and he was a real deal. He was a really deep, good human being. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But
so
can I make a point about what you just said?
yeah, yeah, please.
There's a movie, I think it was Alec Baldwin who played the Shadow. I don't know if you ever saw the Shadow.
Not sure.
Pretty good movie in some ways, but there's an example of what you're talking about. Seeing is not believing sometimes. And in this storyline, there was a building that existed in the town where all of this dark behavior went on. It was like a an outpost for darkness. And this magician had put a spell on this building so that people couldn't see it.
Right.
But see, this is what a mass formation psychosis is about. Matthias Desmet wrote a book about the mass formation psychosis. And that is and in the Matrix movie, what he describes as the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Mm.
See, there is a world that has been pulled over our eyes, and that is that programming. But the programming only works through hypnotic suggestions, constantly reinforced. See, hypnotism, my dad was a professional hypnotist, among other things. Started at the Brighton Hippodrome, where the people would go there and the hypnotist would do all kinds of funny stage tricks when he was a very young boy. But the hypnosis only works because it is the influence of the strongest presence in your life. And so, there's a whole school of thought about not staying with people who are toxic. Why? Because they rub off on you. The influence of those people, and psychiatrists always say, get away from toxic people, pull yourself away. Then you begin to be able to see whatever it is that you need to see, because that influence isn't truncating you. It's not blocking you. So we have influences that are blocking our natural awareness. And this is why, I'll go back to meditation. In the scripture, Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know. Well, that's the actual opposite of trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Well, we're always trying to figure everything out. And this is what we do. We sit here and we look at the ceiling of our cave all day long. It's like, what's going on? Why is this happening? That's not the way to figure it out. Let go, step back, be objective, and in the process of stepping back and becoming objective, it creates an opposite effect of being subjective. In a subjective state, we're in a mass formation, we are subject to hypnotic influences, and we can't see because we can't get permission to see from the influence. The influence is there. The truth that's been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth. You don't ever want to seek permission from that because it won't give it to you. You can't. This is why I go back to the example of the movie The Shadow, where the building only disappeared because people allowed themselves to be under the spell. It was there all the time. The truth is there all the time, but we've allowed the other influences to keep us from seeing actual reality.
Yeah. And you also alluded to the fact that you've been subjected to dark energies.
Oh, absolutely. I
So
mean,
what does
listen,
that look like for you?
well, the minute you start to awaken, you have what the military calls a laser target painted on you. A laser target is that they've got a laser pointer. If they want somebody to receive a bomb, they'll put the laser pointer, and the and the smart bomb zeroes right in on. But see, the forces of darkness are kind of like that smart bomb. They are directed toward the light, whatever the light is. And so the minute you start to awaken, the light begins to emanate, the light of reality, the light of truth. It starts to percolate within you. It starts to grow, and now all of a sudden you become a target. And because light shines through darkness, it eliminates it. It cancels it out.
Yeah.
There's so much darkness in the world. There's a lot of dark forces that surround us. I mean, war and all of these things that are associated with darkness. What is it all about anyway? Isn't it about conquest? Isn't it about the conquest of the human soul? I mean, aren't we all like the movie Predator? Something is hunting us. It's just the truth. And luck favors the prepared. So if you know what you're dealing with, you'll be able to detect it, right? We have radar detectors for police. We should have a radar detector in our own head for all these other things that are out there. There should be little signals going off. Yeah.
So can you talk to a particular experience that you've had that you know that you're being targeted?
Okay. Yes. So I had, and again, this goes back to the dream because these things can only be seen in dreams. And this is the reason why is because the conscious mind is constantly cluttered. It's always caught up in, the things of the world. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold.
No worries.
Um, the conscious mind is caught up in the things of the outside world. And so when you close your eyes, you go into this little chamber, the dream chamber, and there's a door that opens up, a doorway to a different level of consciousness, and then you're able to be shown things. And this is, I mean, if it, I have done a lot of studying of dreams, and you know that, for example, Einstein he discovered his theory of relativity in a dream. He was riding on a beam of light. So there are many problems in terms of practical life that have been solved by people through dreams. And there's hundreds of amazing things that have been discovered in dreams. So what you can discover in dreams most of the time can only be discovered in the dream. It can't be discovered. It can't be. Let's say, for example, if you're looking for dinosaur fossils, you have to go into the earth. You have to dig around. You have to excavate. So the dream is like the earth, and in that earth, it's a ground of different being. You'll excavate around certain things. Now, in one dream I had, I was shown something that was always present that I had not been aware of. It was in a former partner, and it was a complete disconnection in the relationship. No communication whatsoever for 6 months total. 6 months, nothing, not one word. So I go to bed one night, and all of a sudden, I'm in a hypnagogic state, sleep paralysis. Couldn't move. Couldn't even move a finger. So, and then I started having this dream, and the dream was this person started coming to me out of the shadows and wanted to kiss me. And I thought, oh, there's a break. Something is happening. Something good is happening. But then my higher self said to me, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture. There hasn't been any communication. Why would this be happening? All of a sudden, in that moment, this person shapeshifted into a giant tube worm. You know, a tube, it's just a big long tube. At the top of the tube was an opening, and it was lined with teeth going all the way down into the depths of this thing. And from the belly of this thing was a vacuum sucking. And I could feel the air going past my ears. It was trying to suck my soul out of my body.
Right.
I grabbed it, and I knew that I had to call out to Jesus, because one of the things that my dad was, among other things, an exorcist. So I had witnessed many exorcisms during the course of my life. Again, this is not something he went to school for. This was something that he stumbled onto because he discovered something about hypnosis, that people give permission to hypnotism just like they give permission to the dark side. So one day he's giving a talk, and he thinks something says to him, "Here, try this cross on that person." All of a sudden, that person had an exorcism. So it's a deadhesive. That's what it is. It's a representation of something higher, and that something higher has the power to de-adhese whatever it is that's attached to us. Basically, that's an exorcism. And the person who holds that tool has to be believable. Okay. So I grabbed onto this creature, and I knew that I had to speak this into this world. So I knew I could say it in my mind, in the name of Jesus, go away. But I knew I had to say it with my mouth. And I couldn't move my mouth. I couldn't move my mouth wouldn't say anything. In the name. And so finally I said it, in the name of Jesus, go away. And as soon as that came out of my mouth, this thing started to shrivel. It started to deflate like a balloon. Deflate. But at the same time it was deflating, it was still sucking. I could still feel the wind going past my ears until it completely deflated, and it fell on the floor of this construct like of just a big skin. And I reached over and picked it up and tossed it as far as I could. All right, so that basically saved my life, and as far as I can tell. Now, what can happen to a person? Anything can happen to a person when they encounter these forces, right? Anything can happen.
Well,
So go ahead.
thank you for sharing that. While you were talking, it just broke my dream that I had this morning. I was dreaming of Robbin Williams, as in the comedian actor,
Yes,
who I loved a lot.
he was
And
wonderful.
yeah, I
Yeah.
believe he was a good guy, and all of that. And it was very strong. I've never dreamt about Robbin Williams in my life, but very strong. And I was looking at him. I can't remember what he was saying. And then the more I looked at him, he then shapeshifted into a younger man, and it wasn't the same face. It wasn't the same guy. And then at some point in the dream, I I was thinking to myself, but you're dead, because I knew in my dream that Robin had passed. And then I looked up, and he was in an apartment building, but over a swimming pool, like a holiday apartment building. And then I saw what looked like him jump off and into the water to kill himself, basically.
Mm.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts that come up about that, whether you can decode that, but you just broke my dream. So it's funny, isn't it? I've had the paralysis, and I mainly can literally wrench myself out of it, because as soon as I become aware of it, I'm literally like putting force into getting myself up. Now, it hasn't happened for a while, and the next time it happens, I kind of, because I get all this vibration. I don't know if you get that. And
Mm.
then what I want to do next time is just let it just allow, because I think it's an out of body. I hope it's not a bloody dark evil thing, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I think that there's an emotional attachment that you had to Robin Williams. I know a lot of people did. He was a part of our lives for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and I do think that the emotional attachment side of things has residual. In other words, we have a tendency to synthesize everything that our emotions provide to us. So we tend to want to go back to the things that make us feel good. We tend to have certain feelings around the things that, make us not feel good. And so I think it has to do with the whatever you're going through right now in your own life. Um, See, I had a friend who was going through a difficult time, and he was asking me for advice. And I said to him, you have two possible blueprints for your life. One leads to a better outcome, one leads to a worse outcome. I said, all we have to do is to realize which blueprint is the one we should choose. Because that's really
Simple.
what it is all about, right? Yeah. Seriously, though,
I know.
one is so I do think that our emotions have much more of a influence over us because the emotions are not a logical process necessarily like the rest of what we do on our daily basis. Emotions kind of rise and fall all the time, right? And so, I've often felt that your emotions are an entirely separate aspect of your identity. So you have the part of you that think is you, and that's the part of you that's part of the programming side of things. And then there are emotions and feelings that are connected and attached that are sometimes trying to deliver messages to us that we're not cognitively processing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, when it comes to the Robin Williams equation, it's and again, as a visual thinker, I always use movie references. But in H.G. Wells' Time Machine, um, he tries to go back to the girl that he fell in love with and avert the tragedy that she experiences, but he can't change the trajectory no matter what he does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is the newer version, but I believe it's in the original story too. And so there are certain things that cannot be averted, but the trajectory toward it can be changed. And one life ends, another life begins. One part of this life sort of dries up, another part over here buds out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best explanation I can give you since I don't have any specifics.
Yeah. No, no, that's fine. Um, and you've also, I think you've written, because you've written a lot of articles as well as books. I think you've written into narcissists.
Yes, I wrote a whole book about it.
So what is your belief on narcissists? Because narcissist is a phrase that's now widely slapped on lots of people and lots of things. We all have elements of narcissistic traits, but obviously some people are on the higher scale than others. So what's your thoughts on all of that?
Well, the current model of narcissism, as a matter of fact, I worked with a lady who admitted that she was a malignant narcissist
Wow.
to me. And so there's two different ways of looking at narcissists. One is that they are so entirely self-centered that they cannot see the effect that they have on other people's lives. So everything is about them.
Mm.
Everything. So this lady, who is actually a famous lady, she works for the State Department now. Won't tell you who she is. Um, she explained to me. I said, I don't understand what that means. She said, one day I'm in my kitchen and they had reflective covering inside the window, like a window film that reflected the light out. So this bird comes and it's pecking at its own image in the window. Okay. And so she asked her partner, "What have I done to offend the bird?" So the partner said, "No, it's pecking at its own image. It wasn't, had nothing to do with her."
With
See,
her, yeah,
narcissism makes everything a reflection of you.
yeah.
And so that is it is a psychological condition. It's a psycho-spiritual condition, I will say. But there's then the darker side of that narcissism is, I will describe as psychic vampires.
Mm.
That they feed off of that attention. That they feed something dark inside of them through their interactions with the world, and that they are incapable of understanding or even remotely caring about how they affect other people. It's all about them. And then there's an energy feeding that goes on as a result of that. And that's what my book is about. I think the subtitle is "How to Survive, Spiritual Assassins," because that's what they are. The dark, dark, dark ones. As you say, everybody has a degree of narcissism, but that is something that can be overcome
Yeah,
through self-awareness. But if a person, there are none so blind as those who will not see.
yeah. Will not see. Is absolutely right. Do you think there's any merit in because I was given some information. I didn't ask for the information, but it was about an ex of mine, and I was given this information that he was not fully human, that he was a hybrid, whatever a hybrid is.
Okay.
And I know you've looked into and you've written about
Yeah.
reptilians and all that sort of thing.
Sure.
So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I am still studying that, and because the jury is not in on that one, um, and it depends upon the agenda behind it. Um, I have a friend who's a PhD who he and I have had conversations about this, and of course, with the conspiracy theorists, they want to point to, you could see the reptilian eyes. Sometimes they flare. You know what I'm saying? From behind the eyes, they flare out, and you see these big round whatever eyes. But I wonder if that's not a metaphysical manifestation. In other words, well, if we look back into biblical times, we talk about the Nephilim, and the Watchers, and the sons of God seeing the daughters of men and having, so those were hybrid people, right? But today, I think the agenda is more to confuse people than it is to clarify things, because if we are in fact dealing with hybrids, which we may very well be, as a matter of fact, to hybridize something, there are all kinds of things that have been hybridized. Animals, plants, there's all kinds of things that have been mixed. I think they call them chimeras, but yes and no. And part of it is that we retain our human appearance while something operates. So, one of the things that I had a discovery about many decades ago is what I call the hand inside the glove. And so I started meditating because I had a very close brush with death myself. As a matter of fact, I don't even know, why I'm alive today, because for all intents and purposes, I should have drowned in a surfing accident. I didn't. I washed up on the beach, and I was given a warning about what would happen to me. But the idea here is that I started meditating when I was 18 years old because I knew, and this goes to the two different blueprints. I could see that the blueprint that I was following was it was a life-ending blueprint. I wasn't going to survive much longer if I didn't start to change my life. And so I started meditating, and this is a be still and know style meditation, not Eastern meditation, which I've been teaching for decades now. And I started to awaken to this other reality, because, see, the trajectory, most people don't have a trajectory of awakening. They have a trajectory of trying to get comfortable, uh, in their rut. They think this is reality. Oh well, this is it. I've got to figure out how to get used to it. And once you get used to it, you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah.
So I started meditating very early, and it took me many years. But as I was explaining to you about how people sit there and they look at the ceiling of their cave, when I first started meditating, I felt like I was in a cave. I felt like I was in a deep, dark tunnel, and that there was no light in there at all. And so every time I would sit and meditate, there were forces that try to keep me, distractions, noises, all kinds of things that would try to get me out of that meditative state. And the truth is, you know how like a Tylenol will take away a headache? It's like a little pill. You take a little pill, all of a sudden your headache's gone. But meditation is like the red pill that changes your reality. It's really weird, but it does. It actually starts to change your perception of reality. Just that little moment, a little momentary space within you changes everything. It allows a little bit of light, and cracks begin to develop in the ceiling of the cave. So after 5 years of meditating, after about 2 years of meditating, something said to me, never give up meditating. Just keep meditating. I said, okay. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. But I know something was happening because there were forces trying to knock me off of my course. So I thought, I'm going to keep on my course. A couple years, I see this little dot of light, little tiny dot of light. I was like, there's something at the end of this dark cave that I'm in. And that was what I knew I was moving toward, is that eventual opening at the end of that cave. Years go by. Now it's 5 years. And throughout the course of 5 years, this little dot got bigger and bigger and bigger. And one day, I'm meditating and I pop out the end of that. And it's, the code of the Matrix?
Mm.
The code that's trickling down the screen?
Yeah.
This was code that I saw. This was code before code was ever a thing. But it was light. It was like snowing code. But then I realized something. I realized that I had broken out of the cave, and now my reality, actual reality, began. This is where my life started. I was 23 years old at the time. So I probably got off the question that you were asking me.
Yes. I can't remember. I can't remember what the question was, but it was a fascinating insight. Meditation is something that I've been doing, I don't know, let's say 15 years. I certainly didn't start as young as you. Um, and I know damn well I've got out of the habit of that in the last couple of years because the stuff I'm dealing with, because I'm very much in the movement, fighting the establishment, all that sort of thing. And it's been very bloody time consuming. And there's been a lot of fear attached to it all. And moments of, am I crazy? And all that sort of thing. And so I've got myself out of the habit of sitting every morning.
Yeah.
And I know how powerful it is. And just listening to you talking about that light getting bigger and bigger. I'm, every day I think to myself, shit, I didn't meditate again. And it's not helpful to not meditate.
Well, I've got a meditation on my website.
I
It's on
have I, I
YouTube.
I have actually copied and pasted because I was looking through your book. I can't remember which one it was, and I
Yeah.
sent it to my partner and said, right, we'll sit and do this. We haven't done it
Yeah.
yet, so we will.
It's really cool. I mean, it's
Yeah,
super easy. I've distilled it down so that I have a little mechanism, really, because it only takes, like, how you plug in a USB to a port. That's how long it takes.
yeah,
Truly, it's not. There shouldn't be any effort in it. It's an effortlessness, and just the minute you plug in, you're connected. So as long as you could be connected as long as you want, or you could disconnect anytime you want. But what happens is when you connect, there's a flow of energy that comes into you. It starts to change and redirect you and reorganize your world without you doing anything.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no effort involved. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Totally.
Now, that doesn't mean anything outside of you changes. No, actually, the intensity may go up on the outside, right? But the temperature on the inside stays calm.
Mm.
And so when you're dealing with all this stuff that's coming at you, you're not the effect of a cause. And see, this is one of the other things is that there's only two spaces that a human being can be in and at one time. And that is that you're either the effect of a cause. Let's say, for example, you take a ball and you throw it up against the wall. The ball hits the wall, and the wall is the effect of the cause because the ball bounces back, right? But if you're not the effect of a cause, then you are the cause of an effect. Something changes in reality. The minute you stop being the effect of some force that's working upon you, it's like there was no wall there. The ball just goes right through. It doesn't make you as the ball. You're free to keep going. You're free to keep moving. You don't have to be the effect of a cause. So that is the whole thing in a nutshell. And this is what the meditation that I teach. It's not a transcendental meditation. It's a presence meditation. It's being in the moment so that you can be reprogrammed through the conscious field, which is there. And it's also the dream field, which is there. And I was talking about dreams. And part of the side effect of meditating is having these very deep dreams that are messages from the below the awareness self, the subconscious self. The dreams are going to deliver messages to you because when you're awake, you're very distracted. There's all this stuff coming at you. This is why the sleep realm, some physicists believe that sleep is a different dimension altogether, that we enter into that different dimension. And I believe that that is actually true. Sleep has been compared to an out-of-body experience. And I would say that's very, very accurate, except for when you get rid of the barriers that are pre-existing within you, all of the filters that try to keep you, whatever it is that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth, in the sleep state, the active waking mind is put aside so that the subconscious mind, the below the threshold mind, is allowed to function. And whatever it is in there can pick up now. And again, you don't try to self-direct your dreams, by the way. I never, ever suggest that people self-direct dreams, because what will happen is the fantasy side of things will kick in. That's not the same as the actual quantum void, where all the information about everything, about all things exists in the quantum void. And you tap into, you get a spigot right into the quantum void, and the quantum void starts to pour itself into you. To the degree that you're willing to deal with it, to allow it, to that degree it will pour itself into you.
What's your thoughts on what's happened over the last 5-6 years? Now, we know it's been going on a lot longer in terms of darker forces controlling positions of authority, governments, corporations, etc., etc. And that's all massively escalated over the last 5 years, and we seem to be watching the crumbling of the old. And they ain't going down without a fight. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on all of that? Do you believe, because you mentioned conspiracy theorists earlier, and we're not, somebody would call me a conspiracy theorist, but like a friend of mine always says, if you type into Google conspiracy theories that come true, and you'll be quite amazed at which ones it was. And it's the same, that, they're all coming true as we speak, are they not? So what's your belief in terms of why all of this is happening, and what is happening, especially in terms of, like you keep saying, that worldview that is peeling away, if you like? What's your thoughts on all of that?
Oh, so there's a series of vampire movies with Kate Beckinsale. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And in this story, there you talk about hybrids. There are werewolves and vampires, but they are in an underground society where they've been in control for I think 13 or 1400 years. So that's the old order, in my opinion. The old order is an order of darkness, and I think that we are entering into a new age where the order of darkness is crumbling. It's being exposed, and remember, the darkness hates the light because the light shines through it, and darkness is a web of sorts. When truth is present, darkness loses power. So I believe that this old order, and the Epstein files has revealed a lot. This is why it's I mean, it's one of the weirdest things because it almost sounds like a nightmare scenario vampire movie.
Yeah.
All kinds of crazy stuff coming out about all kinds of people. And yeah, I really believe that there's an order. It's a satanic order, in my opinion. Um, the things that I've been seeing, and again, thanks to Elon Musk, for goodness sake, without X, the freedom of speech would be nearly dead. So as long as there are platforms where people can air the truth, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people at a time can see something that they never would have seen before. Millions of people can see, there's, so yeah, I think that these platforms have allowed us, these are the cracks in the cave wall, that the little bits of light come through and eventually enough people see the truth, and it switches. This is the whole idea of a mass formation too, is that there was experiments done by Solomon Asch, and these conformity experiments showed that in a group of 200 people, it only took 4 people to influence the direction of the group. 4. So, one person, then 2, then 3, then 4, and all of a sudden the others start to fall in line. The truth is much, much more powerful than any delusion or lie or misdirection. The misdirection only works when there's a mass formation around it. When the mass formation starts to fall apart, and slowly but surely people start to fall away from it because they've seen the truth. This is what happened in the last election here in the United States. They started to fall away from the mass formation, and then something changed. Now, they don't like the change. A lot of people don't like change. But there's a certain point at which it's painful, so painful that you make a choice in self-preservation. Choices are for self-preservation. The survival instinct. So you can't run away from everything. You eventually got to turn around and face it. And I think that what's happening is we are facing the truth of the dark side of the hidden culture that has been ruling people. You take a look at how many things simply require our agreement, our permission. You know that the IRS in this country, they will claim that you pay your taxes voluntarily. Does anybody really pay their taxes voluntarily? But once they get you to say, okay, whatever, if you're paying your taxes, well, you are paying your taxes, and they'll take that and interpret it as you're okay with it. Nobody's okay with paying taxes. No, it's just the way it is.
Implied consent. Yeah, exactly.
Implied consent. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good enough example. I mean, if you have, any other thoughts about that, but yes, I do think that we've seen a radical shift, and I think that it's a truth shift away from the agreement to go along to a sort of a constructive rebellion. And so you see in this country we have President Trump has decided to go ahead and start to extradite people on the list of people that were already supposed to be extradited, illegal aliens who've committed crimes. And now you have the dark side rising up supporting the illegal aliens. It's weird. I mean, you have the same thing. You have an invasion in Europe. And there are some countries that are absolutely, you know, now I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's Sweden who is ending all immigration. There's places over there that have just said we can't do it anymore.
Mm.
And that, what was all that all about was about destruction of homogeneity. I mean, and I'm married to a Latina. I'm not anti immigrant. I'm anti illegal, because the laws are the laws of nature, the laws of God, the laws of man. They all have to be in sync at some level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this country, we have the same issue,
I
and
know. That's why my dad left in the late 1940s.
well, I don't know what it was like in the 1940s, but
Well, it was
certain
a feudal system. It was a brain drain. It was starting right. Back in those days, he saw that there was opportunity in the United States. He had family over here, and so he said, "I'm out of here." He was 21 years old when he left England.
and he just left on his own, did he?
He got on the Queen Mary with his mom and brought her over here.
Right.
His father had passed away as a result of being a heavy chain smoker, and he brought his mom with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've certainly seen it here ourselves. You know, we have the wonderful Keir Starmer, um, who um, who is the writing's on the wall. It's only a matter of days now, I think, before
Yeah.
he'll be gone. But we'll see. And we've got hotels, supposedly hotels full of
Well, we had
working.
him in New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fighting age men. There's no women and children. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
And also in terms of what's going on the finance corporate side of things, where people are losing their houses and the bankruptcies that are being pushed on to people fraudulently, and I'm talking about my own experiences here.
Mm.
And when you go against, if you go into a court, or if you go and try and support somebody with their house, it is all immigrant people that are in these positions, and obviously
Yeah.
they have no allegiance to the people in this country, because they don't have the history, they don't have they don't share the same core values and beliefs that we were brought up being taught, whether it be right or wrong. I mean, there was a lot of shit we got taught that wasn't right, but there is a camaraderie, there is a similarity, there is a comfort in you grow up in this country, you understand how it works, the schools, the pubs, the clubs, the whatever. Um, and then you've got people that you don't speak English very well, and or some of them might do, and they've got like no interest in the history of this country. And you can't say to them, look, this is wrong. You're trying to explain to them all of the laws that have been broken, all of the things that have been done fraudulently. They couldn't give a rat's ass.
I know.
And from my
Yeah.
opinion, it's all by design to completely
Oh, it is. It's a
desecrate the
sort of
culture.
ethnic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an ethnic cleansing
yeah,
of the original culture. It really is.
yeah.
No doubt in my mind.
And I
That's
mean,
what they're trying to do in this country by
I
flooding it with millions and millions of illegals.
yeah, and Ireland's been done way worse, way before. I mean, we had a lot of Sikhs and Pakistanis and that come to us after the war in the name of needing more workforce, etc., etc. And because they've been here a long time, they're very much part of our culture. It's just they're English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, whatever. They've been here, they're second, third generation.
Right.
And so we don't have a problem with people that have come to this country for a better life. It's the way it's being done at the moment, and it is a desecration of heritage and culture. It's
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how all of that. I know Trump is starting that whole get them out. It's not that easy though, is it? People get lost in the system. There's such.
Well, I tell you this: that they've deported 800,000 so far in one year, which is, and Trump is really upset with the slow pace of that, 2 million have self-deported, but we've still got 25 million people here that came here illegally. And it's not that we don't want people here legally. We do. We want those people here, but they've got to go through the process. They've got to get integrated. If they don't integrate, you will disintegrate your
Yeah.
culture, your
Yeah,
country.
totally. So before we sort of wrap things up, do you have, well, there's two things actually, because you mentioned the word truth a few times. And I have, from a spiritual understanding, there is, everybody's truth is different, subjective, depends on your perspective. And it's that classic three sides to every story. So you have that going on between men and women and children and all the rest of it. Well, that's how I saw it. That's how I believe it. No, I saw it differently. And then there is, they reckon, the absolute truth. But do you actually believe there is an absolute truth? Because like you talk in your articles in your book about being able to change reality. And we know through quantum physics that observing something can make that behavior change. So, and then if you think about the Aboriginals or the indigenous people or the tribe people out in the Amazon rainforest or whatever, they are not experiencing what we're experiencing right now in terms of the New World Order and conspiracy theories and depopulation and all the rest of it. That is not on their mind. Their perspective and their priorities are very different. So you can live on this planet, whatever it is, and have very different experiences and not even know. It's like before all this, I've always been a bit different, and I've all seen the world differently, but I was blown wide open in 2020 like a lot of people, right? And then that has been the main focus for the last 5-6 years. And it's been pretty dark at times, especially when you first go down those rabbit holes and you're like, what the actual um
Yeah.
and it shifted my reality and it shifted my perspective. Had I have not had that awakening, my life now would look very differently, I'm sure. So, um, is there such a thing as the truth? Because, like I just said, my experience is right now very different to the lady in the Amazon rainforest who has different priorities and all the rest of it. If I told her what I believe the truth is of what's going on in this world, she might look at me like I'm a crackhead. So what's your thoughts on that? And the
Well,
second part of
yeah.
that
Hmm.
was, do you believe that light is winning, and do you believe that we're going to end up in a much more beautiful world?
I do.
Yeah.
100% I do. But that's based on the other question, which is there an absolute truth? And let me just, I'll put it to you this way. We're all born, in my opinion, exactly with the same capacity. Every human being born, no matter where your culture is, the culture isolated in the rainforests of Brazil, in China, it doesn't make any difference where your culture is. Your culture starts to create the divisions because homogeneity means our culture is superior to that culture. Okay. And that's the way it's been ever since we can possibly fathom, going all the way back thousands of years, our culture versus your culture, our belief versus your culture. But reality is actually a very subjective thing, right? A person on drugs could be standing next to you in the same city that you live in and have a completely psychedelic view that you don't have. So that it is, reality itself is subjective, but truth is not. And so this is a mouse. Okay? True or not?
Well, it's a
You,
computer mouse. It's not a living mouse.
that's right. It's a computer mouse. There's a couple of different definitions we could apply. But you can't say that's an apple or an orange.
Yeah.
You can't. So the thing is that if you can recognize, this is the whole key to the whole thing. Can you recognize what is so, what is true? If you can't recognize it, then you're in the mass formation. And you have a mass formation psychosis, which means you can't distinguish between what is true and what is not true. So let me tell you something really interesting about this whole conversation. My so my leader, my spiritual leader left this earth 2000 plus years ago. But to me, my spiritual leader is more present now than ever. And that has to do with what it is that I can perceive. Perception, my perception of it. First of all, I had to hear about the story. And I've heard stories, and I'm a person who has studied many different religions. My dad had a library of 10,000 books about religion. Different people had. You ever heard of the Urantia book?
No.
Okay. Space aliens came down, people with different colored hair and blood and all the rest. There's all kinds of belief systems. It doesn't make any difference. The question is, which one makes the most sense?
Mm.
And so the question around that is, can you see which makes sense? That's the question, because it's all a perception-based thing. We're all born into this world not knowing a darn thing, no matter what culture we're born into. Now, we're given information, and we base what we do on that information. Is that information actually true or false? Now, we live right now in a construct, like in the Matrix, a construct controlled by the forces of darkness, in my opinion. It's been that way for, I don't know. I mean, it's been that way for thousands and thousands of years. Whatever forces that we're dealing with have been there, and they operate below the surface, below threshold. We don't see it. No, don't tell me. I don't want to know. Well, that's what a lot of people say. But there's an awakening going on, and there has to be an awakening, because otherwise, the genocide that's taken place over thousands of years of wars, evil, cannibalism, you name it, all kinds of weird, crazy stuff has gone on. If there's no higher principle above all that, then none of it matters. You know, this is the satanic Bible. Do as thou wilt. Doesn't make any difference to Satan. Do what you want to. So you have to be able to see the difference between right and wrong. You have to be somehow far enough outside of the social formation construct. And within your community, by the way, you know, the Anglican Church, you know, got some weird ideas about LGBTQ and all that stuff. There are wars within the church, within, you know, they're constantly fighting for superposition. Whoever gets to the top, the Pope, you know, the Pope's got some weird ideas. And I'm not a Catholic, but did you see him bless the iceberg, the little piece, the chunk of the iceberg?
No.
There's weird people that, and this is supposed to be the spokesman for God? Come on. We're all spokespeople for God. This is the truth. This is the point. You are an agent in the Matrix, and the Matrix is an agent in you. It's a duality here. Whatever you tap into taps into you. And so the main question is, what is the truth? Not who are you, but what are you? You are a receiver and a transmitter. You have all this amazing apparatus within you. You have this radio, this amazing metaphysical radio, and all you have to do is tune it to the right channel. And now you've got the information. And now what you do with it is up to you. And if you know what Jesus said, know the truth and it shall make you free. That's the end of the story. My master, who left this earth 2,000 years ago, is more present today in me because I have followed what it is that he left us. As far as as good as I can, as the best that I can, I'm following what it is that he showed us. It's very simple. It's not complicated. And what it does is to know the truth is freedom. To not know the truth is slavery. End of story. End of story. Now, the other thing that's really amazing to me is that when my master came 2,000 years ago, he was just an ordinary person. Just an ordinary guy with extraordinary spirituality. And so much so that they murdered him for having a different opinion. Is it any different today? Look what they did to Charlie Kirk. He was a great communicator. It was just his opposition to the construct, to the formation. Some people say it was a conspiracy. Some people say it was the Mossad. Some people say it was the Russians. Some people, who knows who actually killed him. I don't think it was the guy that they have in custody. I think he was just a useful idiot, a
Well,
throwaway.
there's also the theory that it didn't actually happen. So
There's also that theory. I mean, the theory that Jeffrey Epstein's body got swapped out and that he's still alive somewhere. There's all kinds of theories. And you know what? It's not necessarily a conspiracy, or it's not necessarily crazy, because it's a conspiracy. Conspiracies happen all the time.
absolutely.
And, if you're not aware that you're caught up in a conspiracy, did you ever see the Mel Gibson movie Conspiracy Theory?
Yeah.
Great movie. In the end, he was validated. For me, after seeing that UFO lift up out of the ocean in Hawaii, and I spent my whole life wondering what it is that we're dealing with, I told my wife the other day, she says, "Oh, you're all caught up with UFOs." I said, "No, I've been absolutely validated. Now it's in the news. Now it's mainstream. Now we're talking about stuff that I've wondered about my whole life."
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't say what I thought it was. I do think that it's not extraterrestrial. I do think that we're dealing with ultra-terrestrial, other dimensional things. That's what I believe. Could be that there are other beings in other places. I don't know. We don't have any proof or evidence of it in any way, shape, or form. So, and the article I sent you on spiritual alchemy, making the immaterial material, there's things that we have just begun on the subatomic level to understand. So,
Oh yeah. We understand very little. That's become very clear to me.
yes, the more I know, the more I know I don't know.
Exactly. So, well, it's been a fascinating conversation. If people have resonated with you, David, where's the best place for them to go to learn more?
My website, it's escapeyourmindsprison.com, and I do have meditation there that people can just go to the website, or they can just download it from YouTube. But it is a simple meditation. There's a little mechanism that I've included, which I've never seen anybody else do. There's no transcendental nonsense to it. It's completely biblically based on Psalm 46:10. Be still and know. But how do you do that? How do you get out of your own thinking? Well, there's a simple process of letting go, stepping out of the thought stream. It's like a river. We're always going downstream with our thoughts. What if you just climbed up on the bank and watched them for a while?
Mm.
That's it.
Mm.
Then they can't continue to drag you down. So that's it. EscapeYourMindsPrison.com. And all my books are there. And there's more about me if you want to find out about me. And also I have a chapter of my book, The Present, that you can read. And that's my other book that is really spectacular. It's all about meditation. I have two books on meditation, one called Consciousness, and the other one is called Present. Those are also available at EscapeYourMindsPrison.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. Sometimes I like to close these conversations with anything you feel called to share before we end. Is there anything bubbling up for you?
Well, I will tell you this, that in my lifetime, I have questioned as much as I know how to and wondered about death. And I will tell you that I do not believe any of us ever come to an actual end. We come to a new beginning. Now, what that beginning is depends upon choices that you make in this life. And what you must understand at this point is that no matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, turn around. If you think you're on the wrong road, if you realize you're going down the wrong road, if you're going in the wrong direction, turn around. Start a new journey. Because if in fact the soul is a spark of the eternal, it is inextinguishable. No end There is a foreverness to each one of us. This is one of the most important truths you can ever consider, because if there's anything that you're doing that you're sabotaging yourself, or someone else is sabotaging your potential, change that relationship. And, to me, the more I look at my life, the life that I've lived, yes, I've done this and I've done that, and so what? None of it means anything, because in the end, what matters is, what did I believe? And why did I do it? That's kind of what it matters the most. And so I try to do the right thing for the right reason under all circumstances, no matter what, even if it costs me, like you, right? You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But if you're not doing the right thing and you kind of feel that that's missing from your life, get quiet. Learn how to get quiet and be still and know, because God's got you. God does not want to lose a single soul in this life. He doesn't. But you have a choice. Everybody has a choice which direction you want to go. And you may not even want to go the direction you're going. So if you don't want to go the direction you're going right now, step back and be objective, because otherwise you're in a subjective state, and you'll be in a subjective state forever if you don't change it now. And so I will just refer to the story of Howard Storm. Have you ever heard of Howard Storm, near-death experience?
Not sure.
Very famous person who was an atheist art teacher. Took some students to France on a excursion. Ends up out in the French countryside where nobody speaks English, and he has this health crisis, and he dies in the hospital because there's nobody there to work on him. And he's led down a hallway, a dark hallway, by these people that say, "Howard, we've been waiting for you." His spirit pops out of his body. He decides to follow these people, and they lead him down into this darkness. And in the darkness, they start tearing him to shreds, these dark demonic forces. And he has this realization. It's like, is this it? This is it. And then something occurs to him. And this is my most important message to you. Jesus loves you. This I know, because the Bible tells you so. He had that realization. In that moment, from this darkness, a light descends into the darkness. Arms grab him, bring him up into the heavens. He is brought back to life, and he becomes a minister. His whole world on the outside falls apart. His wife rejects him, divorces him. People think he's out of his mind. It's a great story, but my point is, your life matters. Your life matters. The people who think it matters the least maybe matter the most. For some reason, your potential may have been suppressed, or, I don't know, you may have been traumatized. But everything, as long as you have this life, you have the ability to recover and find the purpose for which you came into this world. And that is, in some way, shape, or form, learning how to get quiet and realize you have a relationship with your Creator. And that's the meaning of Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am your God. It's a very personal statement. God loves his creations. Our God, not a man, not a person, but a spirit, loves all of his creations and doesn't want to lose a single one, but it's your choice.
Well said. Thank you very much, David. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this last hour and a half with you. I know the audience are going to love it. Thank you very much.
Blessings upon you forever and ever and ever, and your audience. Thank you.